If you're coming to Istanbul for the first time, these are 10 things you have to know about. As an American who's been living here for the past 4 years, this is my advice to all the tourists. The first tip I have is to bring good walking shoes, especially in the summer. I know that you're probably going to want to bring some sandals and flip-flops, but in the city, there are so many hills and all the sidewalks and streets are made of cobblestones that it's going to be a little bit rough on your feet. There are so many times where I see tourists wearing like beach flip-flops, and you can always tell that they're Americans because of this. Like, Americans always wear flip-flops everywhere, but I don't think you will ever see a Turkish person walking around the streets in just flip-flops. So definitely bring good walking shoes. Another good thing to bring with you to Turkey is a scarf if you're female. You'll have to cover your head if you're going inside the mosque, so definitely bring one to put in your bag with you throughout the day if you decide to go into a mosque. And you'll also need to cover your shoulders and your knees, so wear appropriate clothing if you decide to go into the mosque. The second tip that I have for tourists visiting Istanbul for the first time is visit the historical sites early, because they will get full of people throughout the day. Sometimes there's people from cruise ships that come off the port, and it becomes very chaotic, especially at the Hagia Sophia, the mosque, the palace, Topkapi Palace, and all of the museums on the historic peninsula, because they have such a limited time in the city that they're trying to see everything all in a small time frame. So if you are staying in the city for a couple of days, go to these places early to avoid all of the crowds. My next tip for visiting Istanbul is to get an Istanbul card. This card is a card that you can use on all the public transportation, ferries, buses, trams, the metro, and it's probably the most useful card that you can have in the city. You can purchase them from any of the ticket machines. You'll see these at the airport when you arrive, or you can see them at any metro station or tram station. It's really easy to follow the directions. They have multiple different languages that you can choose from, and you just insert the money, the cash, or you can pay with your card. My next tip that I have is choosing the correct area to stay in Istanbul. Because Istanbul is such a big city, you're going to want to stay in a central area. And I know that these hotels can be quite expensive, but it will be more convenient for you to get to different places in the city if you're more centrally located. So the best areas to choose a hotel to stay in is going to be in the Sultanahmet area, Karaköy, Cihangir, and Beyoğlu. If you want something a little bit more local or quieter, you can also go to the Asian side in Kadıköy. If you're looking for something a little bit more luxurious, you can choose one of the Bosporus hotels, such as the Shangri-La, Chiron Palace, or the Four Seasons, and the Mandarin Oriental. My next tip is going to save you some money, because you're going to want to be aware of some tourist traps in Istanbul. And the one that I see the most is when you're buying an Istanbul card from the ticket machine, someone will come and ask you if you need help and will offer you a physical card if you pay him directly. The scam is that the card that he's offering you is not the same amount that you are going to pay him. It's probably going to be quite less, and you won't know how much is loaded on the card until after you pay him. So don't accept the card from this guy that's trying to sell you the card. Just buy it from the ticket machine. Another scam that I see a lot is someone will be walking past you. They might drop something on the ground, like a shoe shine brush, and you might want to pick it up and give it back to them, but don't do it, because they will then offer you to clean your shoes for free, but they will end up asking you for money. So don't pick up anything from the ground if it looks like someone dropped it. intentionally or unintentionally. And the last tourist scam is the menus. Some of the restaurants in Istanbul, especially in the old city, have two different menus, one for tourists and one for locals. So make sure that the menu that you're seeing has prices on it. If it doesn't have any prices, don't eat there because they can charge you whatever they want and you'll be very surprised when you get the check. My next tip is for when you want to visit some of the local markets. And the cool thing about Istanbul is that a lot of the neighborhoods have kind of a neighborhood market that you can visit on certain days of the week. So depending on which neighborhood you're staying in, I would ask your hotel or some of the local businesses if there's a local market that you can go to on a certain day. These markets will have fresh produce that you can buy for snacks during your visit. There might also be some vintage antiques if you want to get a really cool souvenir. One of the markets that I definitely recommend going to is in Bomonti, and it's during the weekend, but they have a lot of antiques that you can just kind of browse through. Some of them are really cool and would make really cool souvenirs. Another market that I would recommend going to is in Kedikoy. It's the fish market. It's located kind of in the central area of Kedikoy. You can see all of the catches of the day, the fish available. You can also get a sampling of cheese, olives, and buy some spices from there. They'll probably also be much cheaper than if you buy them at the Spice Bazaar. The next advice that I have for tourists visiting Istanbul is to learn some Turkish phrases. Basic Turkish word that you can learn is how to say hello, which is merhaba. You can also say thank you, teşekkürler, and if you want to ask for the check in the restaurant, you can say hesap lütfen. If it's your first time in Istanbul or in Turkey in general, I definitely recommend going to a hammam. This is going to be the spa in Turkey, but don't think of it as like a relaxing like massage, like Swedish massage type of thing. It's more like a bath, and someone will scrub you and you'll see all of your like dead skin coming off of off your body, but afterwards you'll feel very refreshed and probably the cleanest that you've ever been. The most popular mosque in the city is located in Karakoy. It was recently renovated into one of the best hammams in the city. This is the name of the mosque. I think it's called Kilik Ali Pasha, but I might be saying that wrong. One of the most important things that you should know is that Istanbul is a city of 20 million people, and you'll definitely feel it. It can feel very crowded and almost claustrophobic in some ways. So it's important that you are aware of your surroundings and are safe while you're visiting the city. Definitely make sure that you secure your bag whenever you're on the public transportation or in any crowded areas, and in the evening. I've heard many different stories of tourists getting pickpocketed on the tram, especially in Sultanahmet, and I would highly recommend you watch out for the children that come onto the trams. They are usually the ones that are potentially going to pickpocket you. The last thing that I recommend you do as a tourist in Istanbul is book a food tour. This is because there is much more Turkish cuisine than just kebab and doner. And when you book a food tour, you get to try a wide variety of Turkish foods and get a really good explanation of what you're tasting. So I recommend booking a tour through Get Your Guide. They're really friendly tour guides. I especially love this tour. Taking a food tour in Istanbul is definitely a good way to immerse yourself in the history and culture and understand the city's rich cultural heritage. I hope you enjoyed this video of things to know before you visit Istanbul. And if you want to know some free things that you can do in the city, you can check out this video.